ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपं कदा मह्यं ददान्ति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं स्वजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते जयपताक स्वामी नित्य नामिने नमो आचार्य पदाय निताय कृपा प्रदायिने गौर कथा धामदाय नगर ग्रामतारिण नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नित्य नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। Hare Krishna to all the assembled devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. So today we would be discussing about Gajendra Moksha. So we have been seeing in Srimad Bhagavatam as to how Ashwadama has released the Brahmastra and how even at this emergency situation, Arjuna surrendered unto the lotus feet of Krishna, and he is offering his prayers, and he is requesting Krishna to please protect him from the difficulty that he is going through, and how can he because it is important. Even though Arjuna was such a great archer, he's still begging at the lotus feet of Krishna to protect him. So keeping the same point of surrender, and one of the most beautiful pastime that we can correlate with is Gajendra Moksha. So we can see as to how Gajendra surrendered. So when we get into the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is one of the most spoken pastime from Srimad Bhagavatam. So practically, everybody in this session would be knowing about as to how Gajendra was protected by the Lord. So it was one of the best examples. So if anybody can remember the Lord, then it could even be an animal like Gajendra. Lord never distinguishes, and he is always at his he is always ready to come and protect them. So when we initially heard, at least when I personally initially heard the Gajendra Moksha, it was a very simple story. So it was just as to how Gajendra was caught into the mouth of crocodile, and he was bleeding and he was helpless. In that situation, he offers a lotus flower to the Lord, and the Lord immediately arrives there and he protects Gajendra. So it is a simple story setup. But when we as devotees get into the real root of the story as to how has the story taken place, and it is just not that Gajendra was stuck in that difficulty and Lord came and helped. To the to the upfront, it looks the same, but when we go deep into the story, we can grab a lot of life lessons from the pastime of Gajendra. So beginning with as to how Gajendra was. So Gajendra was not a normal elephant, right? So he was the king of the heavenly elephants, and he was so powerful that even the lions in the forest would be scared of him. So once it so happened that with his family, he decided to go on a vacation at the Trikuta mountain, and he took his family, and he went, and it was mentioned by the senior devotees that when he just walked into the forest, all the animals paid their obeisances to Gajendra. That is how respectful Gajendra was. So practically, Gajendra had everything. He had name, fame, wealth, uh, beauty. He was very beautiful and effulgent, it is being mentioned. So he had many wives, he had children. So he wanted to basically enjoy, and he just wanted to go on a vacation. So he went to the Trikuta mountain, and they found a pond wherein it was filled with lotus flowers. And when this was happening, he since he had gone with vacation with his family, it was a complete perfect setup for enjoyment. So he had planned it in such a way that he can have the maximum enjoyment. So he was enjoying with his children, playing with the water, and he had entered into the a lake, and he was playing with his children and his wife, and it was a complete perfect setup of enjoyment. But from nowhere, a crocodile came and it caught hold of the feet of Gajendra. Even at this point of time, Gajendra was sure that he was so much filled with pride about his strength that, what can a crocodile do to me? So I can come out of the clutches of the crocodile is what he thought, but he never realized that he is in the homeland of crocodile. So crocodile is very strong when it is in water, and similarly, Gajendra is strong when he is in land. But now he's come to a foreign arena that is water, and his strength is not much in the water. But still, he kept on, struggling for getting out of the mouth of crocodile, but and not realizing that the crocodile is having a very good grip of his leg, and um, as the time passes by, it is becoming more stronger and stronger, and the grip of crocodile on the feet of Gajendra is increasing. So the senior Vaishnava from whom I was hearing a lecture, he was telling that for us it could appear very simple, that Gajendra is into the pond, into the lake, and he is caught by the mouth of crocodile. But we are failing to understand that the story of Gajendra and our lives are non-different. We can very much correlate to the story of Gajendra and our own life. So it is not that Gajendra's pastime is somewhere and we are on the other end, and it is not at all relatable. That is not the situation. So, as Gajendra was in the mood of enjoyment, we, his conditional souls, we have rebelled against the Lord, and we have come down to this material world thinking that even I want to enjoy as the Supreme Lord is doing. But we are failing to understand that he has his external potency, Maya, who is taking care of this material nature, and it is just impossible to get out of her clutches. So, Amarendra Prabhu, he gives a very nice example as to how we can relate ourselves with Gajendra. So Gajendra practically had everything that we as materialistic people would desire. He had name, he had fame, he had the strength, he had a good position in the society. But one thing he lacked was the association he had because for him everybody around him was praising, everybody were honoring him. Nobody told him that what you were doing is wrong. So the similar thing, we are also desiring for name, fame, position and wealth, but we never know when this is going to destroy our own bhakti life. So because it becomes very difficult. Initially it would be very pleasing for us to see as to how we are all being glorified everywhere, we have too much of wealth. But in no time we'll fail to understand that all this is not going to help us in bhakti. It is not the food for the soul. Maybe it is food for the body and very pleasing to the ears, very pleasing to our senses. But in no time, it's going to destroy our bhakti life. So as Gajendra was deciding, he entered into the lake or pond to enjoy. In similar manner, we are also in this material world and we are also trying to enjoy, but we're not realizing that Krishna has titled it as Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. So we have to understand that in this place of misery, it is impossible to enjoy. So it is like a person who is having fever, he's trying to eat ice cream and then thinking that I will be relieved of my cold. But it is practically nonsense. You cannot basically cannot get out of the suffering of the fever that he has. So similarly, we are all thinking that we can get out of the clutches of Maya just by enjoying in her own in such a place which is being filled with distress and pain. So here we can see as to how we can also correlate Gajendra with Draupadi. So how they called out to the Supreme Lord. So when Gajendra was in that situation of helplessness, when he called out, first of all, he never called out to the Supreme Lord. He was relying initially on his own strength, and he was thinking, maybe I'm very strong enough that I can get out of the clutches of Maya, out of the clutches of crocodile. But later, as the time passed, he realized that it is impossible for him to do so. He's not able to get out of the mouth of the crocodile because it's so strong. And then he started depending upon his relatives and all his wives and children, thinking that, oh, maybe they will save me. But it never happened. So they were there with him for one day. I mean, the second day they were there, the third day maybe also they were there. But as the time passed, all his wives and children, they started moving out of the place, and they were also helpless. They couldn't help Gajendra. And we can also see in the life of Draupadi as to how she was distrobed in front of the entire public, in front of her own men, in front of her own family. So initially, when she thought she can protect herself, but she failed to understand that it is beyond her limits to protect her own self. And that is when she raised her hands and called for Krishna, and immediately, no time, Krishna came and helped her. So similarly, even in the pastime of Gajendra, he was all depending on his own strength, his own relatives, his own family, children. But nobody could save Gajendra, but only the Supreme Lord. As soon as Gajendra plucked the lotus feet and he offered it to the Lord, in no time the Supreme Lord came. So that is how merciful the Supreme Lord is. So the first thing that we have to understand is that we are all Gajendras and we are all suffering in this material ocean. But the thing is that Gajendra at least realized that he was chewed by the crocodile, and he surrendered unto the lotus feet of Krishna. But we are all so conditioned that even though Maya is biting us with her strong teeth, we are thinking it is pleasurable. Let me enjoy, let me enjoy. We are not even realizing that we are being bitten by Maya. So there is one of the pastimes of Prabhupada where he tells that it was the first time that he had been to a place called Miami. So Prabhupada was very fascinated by the name, and he told, this place's name, it is basically located at Florida. So he told that this place is called as Miami. So it's Maya and me. So he was telling, you can go anywhere, you can go to Mumbai, you can go to London, but Maya is never going to leave you anywhere. So it is always said by the senior Vaishnavas that either you are Krishna consciousness or you are Maya consciousness. Sorry. So that and Prabhupada used to always stress on this point as to how we are always stuck in the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, and it is only the Supreme Lord who can get us out of this ocean of birth and death. So during one of the morning walks of Srila Prabhupada, he happened to be on the shore of an ocean. And there the disciple said to Prabhupada that, Prabhupada, look at the ocean, how beautiful it is. Prabhupada told him that from far it looks very beautiful. So the disciple couldn't understand as to what Prabhupada is trying to tell. And he asked, Prabhupada, what are you trying to convey? And then Prabhupada told that, even Maya is... So even Maya is the same way. From a far off place, she looks very beautiful, and we think it's very pleasurable. We are scrolling through our mobile, and the intention we have gone there is maybe to hear a harikatha. But it is she's so powerful that within a second, we change, and we forget for what have we even logged into the mobile, and we start scrolling on the reels and everything. So that is how powerful she is, and that is what Prabhupada is always trying to emphasize on. He's telling that, the ocean from far away, it looks like really nice, but but if you go near to it, in no time it's gonna swallow you. So similarly, even Maya is the same way. From far off, she looks like really pleasurable. If too much fame comes, too much wealth comes into the life, it is all very nice to look at it, and we all feel very nice because it is satisfying our senses. But we are failing to understand that sense gratification is not what we are here for. We are here to re-establish our lost relationship with Krishna and go back home to Godhead and serve the Lord there eternally. But Maya is so strong that she can she can turn the circumstances favorable to us, but we have to understand, is that circumstance favorable for my bhakti? Is it helping me progress? So my Shiksha Guru, he used to tell us, so how do we remain Krishna consciousness, and how do we see that nothing materialistic materialistic things affect us? So he tells us that, so before you perform any activity, you see whether it is favorable for your Krishna consciousness. The moment you feel, yes, this is going to help me in my bhakti life, that is when you're supposed to take it up. Otherwise, it is simply sense gratification. Again, it is just, as Prabhupada told, the ocean is going to swallow us. The ocean of this material existence is going to swallow us inside, without even even after swallowing us, we would be still thinking that it is very pleasurable. So before we fall trap to Maya, we should be very careful. So Prabhupada was once praying in front of the Lord's ships. He was doing intense prayers. He was standing for hours together, and he was praying. And the disciple asked him, Prabhupada, what are you praying so much to the Lord's ships? So Prabhupada replied that I am praying that the Lordships, please protect me and please take care of me, so that I'm always in Krishna consciousness. So if Prabhupada, such a renounced person, who's our founder Acharya, if he's at that, he's a Paramahamsa, even at that stage, if he's praying to the Lordships to protect him and make him stay in Krishna consciousness, then what to speak of us who have just started our bhakti, and anytime Maya can attack us. So Amarendra Prabhu was mentioning that we as ISKCON devotees, the one thing we are not scared of is Maya. So we are just thinking, I'm following four regulative principles, and I am chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I am chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I'm doing 16 rounds. But if we ask ourselves as to how effective is these 16 rounds, am I hearing all the 108 mantras in a round? We can understand how good is our japa. So in spite of having such inattentive chanting, we are all proud that, Maya can't affect us. But Maya is also an external energy of the Lord, and she's also trying to serve the Lord. So she's also in the service of the Lord, similar to us. But we are all trying to serve the Lord. So if, in that, so Maya will come and test us as to how strong is this devotee. And only in the reversals of our life we'll be able to understand how strong is our bhakti. So if when the circumstances are favorable, bhakti life is very good. There's no obstacle, and it's all smooth flowing. But when the real testing is at the time of reversals, even at that point of time, are we going to stay attached to the lotus feet of Krishna? So that is what Amarendra Prabhu was mentioning, that we have to first realize that we are Gajendras, and we are also in this ocean of material existence, and we are trying, we are in a helpless situation. And in such situation, what did Gajendra do? Gajendra called out to the Lord. He was mentioning as to how we are also calling out to different people. You're in distress, we pick up our phone, we call to hundreds and thousands of people, and we tell our problems to all of them. And what do we get? We get only sympathy. But but instead of spending our time talking to people and getting sympathy, the best thing we can do is, just as Gajendra called out to the Supreme Lord, we have to also call out to the Supreme Lord. We have to offer our prayers to the Lord, and that is the best thing which we can do. So I remember an example during my initial bhakti life. So as to how Maya is so strong, I used to watch these web series that was released by Netflix. So when I used to go watch it, so I used to tell myself, I'll watch another episode and we'll finish off with it. And I used to go on for another and on for another. But by the time I could realize, my time is being spent, and I know the time I've spent, I've not done anything productive. So it's not given any productivity in my life, the time I've spent on the web series. But by the time I could realize, it is very late. So by the time we realize that we have to surrender, if it is become too late, then it becomes very difficult. So the best thing that we can do is keep ourselves in the association of devotees. That time, even if we forget to remember Krishna, at least we have a hope that the devotees are going to help us remember. So the second aspect is the surrender aspect of Gajendra. So the first lesson is that we are all Gajendras, and we have to correlate the same situation as Gajendra is, and understand that we are chewed by the jaws of Maya, and as the time passes, we are getting closer and closer to death. So as we are getting closer and closer to death, we have to perform our sadhana, thinking that this is the last day I'm going to survive on this planet. So in that mood, we have to render our devotional service. And the second thing is surrendering to Krishna. So how Gajendra surrendered? So Gajendra did not, call out to some demigod and he's like, please come and protect me. Because we can see in Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad Maharaj, Nrsimhadev pastime basically. So as to how Hiranyakashipu, he asked Brahma, make me immortal, make me deathless. But what did Brahma tell? I itself have death, so how can I grant you a boon which I do not possess? So we have to understand that no demigod is going to come and protect us. It is only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because the Supreme Lord in Bhagavad Gita tells, Daivi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Dhurattaya. So he tells, my Maya is very dangerous, and how can I come out of the clutches of Maya? Surrender under to me. So the Supreme Lord tells, Sarva Dharma Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. So surrendering to the Supreme Lord is the only way by which we can relieve ourselves from the clutches of the crocodile. So there was a very nice example that one of the Maharajas in his lectures he had given. So it once so happened that one of the Maharaj had been to one of his friend's house, and this had happened when Maharaj was really young, and this friend, he had a dog. Maharaj used to come to his place. The dog used to bark at him, and Maharaj was very scared of the dog to enter, and because of which he's not able to enter into the house of his friend. So one day he realized, how long will I be scared of this dog? I should somehow try and overcome this fear. So he that day decided, he went to his friend's house, and the dog as usual started barking. But this time he was so intelligent, he called out to the friend. He called out the friend's name, and he told, ask your dog to be quiet. I am your own friend. I've come in, but it is not allowing me to enter into your house. So then the friend comes out, and he tells the dog, you shouldn't be barking, and this is my friend. And the moment he's out, and he tells the dog is all pacified, and it becomes silent. So similarly, in this in this material existence, we cannot get out of the clutches of Maya without surrendering unto the Supreme Lord, because this material creation has been created by the Supreme Lord, and he has a control over it. Just by surrendering to the Supreme Lord, one can overcome the fear of can overcome the biggest fear, that is the cycle of birth and death. You don't have to do anything else, because in this age of Kali, we have seen as to how it is just so difficult to perform anything. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so merciful. Even in this age, he has given us the chanting of the holy name. Just how Gajendra called out to the Supreme Lord, he offered wonderful prayers. It is being mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. And just by hearing to his prayers, Krishna arrived there immediately. And Prabhu was mentioning, so we are also singing prayers every day. We are singing Guru Puja, we are singing Shri Guru Charana Padma, and morning we are singing Samsara Dava, we are singing Tulsi Arati every day. But what is the difference between the surrender of Gajendra and our surrender? Because Gajendra was an animal, but even at that moment, he remembered Krishna and he called out. But we are also singing the same prayers. We are not changing anything. We are doing the same thing, but the difference is in the mood. So he gives a very beautiful, Amarendra Prabhu gives a very beautiful example of a letter being posted. So the three main things for a letter to be posted. The first one is the destination address. And the second thing is the content in the letter, and the third thing is envelope. And envelope is like really important. The destination address for us as devotees should always be Krishna, but we are always after we are sending it to somebody, we're sending it to demigods, or we are sending it to so-called Baba, who is himself caught in the clutches of this material existence, and he doesn't know how to even come out of it. So we are sending it to the wrong address, even though the content is right, and even though the envelope is being put. But what is the use if it's not reaching the right destination? So our destination at any circumstance in our life should be Krishna. So the first thing is that the destination address should be Krishna. And the second thing is the content. Content is the prayers that are being mentioned in the scriptures. We can see that how Kunti Maharani offered her prayers, how Prahlad Maharaj offered his prayers, and how Gajendra offered his prayers. So we can, we don't have to make a new prayer and offer. The same prayers can be offered, but the most important thing is the envelope, but that is the mood that we are carrying. So it is very important. It could be the same prayers. If it was the same prayers, why is that Nrsimhadev came out of pillar for Prahlad, and he protected Prahlad Maharaj, and for Gajendra, the Lord came running. It was said that it was the first time ever he ran even faster than Garuda, his own servant. So if it is the same prayers when Lord helped Kunti Maharani in her difficult situation, then why is it not Lord helping us? It is because of the mood that we are offering prayers in. So Gajendra did not think, oh, does God really exist? And if he exists, is it Krishna? He never doubted the existence of Krishna. He offered prayers in such a mood that Krishna is right in front of me, and he is there and he is listening to me. That is what we should be thinking. So he was giving a very nice example as to how we make garlands and offer. So as Gajendra offered lotus, we are also making garlands every day and offering. So why is that the Supreme Lord came to protect Gajendra immediately? And why is that, even though we are offering garlands and we are in human form, why is that Lord not coming? It is just because of our moods. Draupadi was trying to protect her, depending upon her own her own. She is dependent on herself. But as soon as she lifted her hands, she gave complete surrender. The Lord came and he protected Draupadi. So in the similar way, it is the mood that in which we have to offer our prayers, and we have to surrender unto the lotus feet of Krishna to get ourselves out of this pond of material existence. And there are some more life lessons from Gajendra Moksha. Maybe we can have another session, but for today I stop hereby, and I thank all of you for your patient listening, and I thank Madhurapati Prabhu and Parabhakti Mataji for giving me this opportunity. Hare Krishna.